Welcome to the Zono Sports Show, where you know Zonos. The NBA playoffs were approaching Welcome to the Zono Sports Show, where you know Zonos. The NBA playoffs are fast approaching. We know that, right? Now, the second round, people thought that there were teams that would be there and there were teams that wouldn't be there. Folks are moving on quickly and fast and in a hurry, even the folks we didn't expect. Who am I talking about specifically? The Pelicans. Now, Golden State, they beat San Antonio 4-1 last night. The gentleman's sweep. However, the Pelicans are awaiting them in the second round. Now, the question that I have after this series, the Spurs, they definitely looked old. Tony Parker, you need to retire. Manu Ginobili, you still got a little juice in the tank. And then Popovich, Greg Popovich, will he coach for the San Antonio Spurs next year, or will he just retire? We all know that he's mourning the passing of his wife, Erin Popovich, who passed away last week. He didn't coach a game after that, game 4 or game 5. So we wonder, will he remain with the organization? Now, as far as a player standpoint, all eyes are on Kawhi Leonard. Will he end up in Los Angeles as a free agent? Will he get picked up by the Lakers and want to go back home to where he's from? Or will Kawhi Leonard stay in San Antonio? I doubt that he stays in San Antonio. Greg Popovich constantly antagonized him throughout the playoffs, referring to Kawhi and his group. So I do not see Kawhi Leonard returning to be in a Spurs uniform. And if he does, great for him. Congrats, Kawhi. However, I do think it may be time for Kawhi to move on, just because it seems like he's not happy there and he needs to go somewhere where he can be happy. The man's from California, but I'm anxious to see what happens with this entire San Antonio Spurs organization. 21 straight seasons they've been to the playoffs. Will it continue next year for a 22nd? That I do not know. I am not sure. Now, the Pelicans are the surprise because they got the broom out on the Portland Trailblazers. Dame Lillard was ineffective. Jrue Holiday shut the man down, was on him like a fly on poop. So I really think that what's happening in Portland with that Dame Lillard and CJ McCollum combination, that's got to get broken up. They've got to make some moves because Dame Lillard, to me, quite frankly, is just not the guy that's going to take Portland to a championship. He's not the one. Yeah, they've had good pieces with Evan Turner and Aminu, but they just don't have what it takes to get over that hump. I mean, you guys got swept by the Warriors last year and the Pelicans this year. So what does that say about your organization and the talent that you guys actually have on that roster that goes and fits well together? I think it means that there is definitely time to make some shifts in that lineup. Anthony Davis is unbelievable. He's got enough support without DeMarcus Cousins, which poses a threat to DeMarcus Cousins' contract disputes, or negotiations, we should call them, because I call them disputes, because there will definitely be dispute after the season because the Pelicans are showing they can win without DeMarcus Cousins. They didn't really need him. They've done it with Rajon Rondo, who's awoken, either or. They've done it with Jrue Holiday. They've done it with Nikola Mirotic. He looks great, shooting great without the beard. DeMarcus Cousins, in my opinion, should definitely take what the New Orleans Pelicans are going to give him, and then just simply be okay with it and stay there and win some championships with Anthony Davis, because they've got a great young core. These are young guys. The old guy on that team is Rajon Rondo, and the man's 31. So I definitely think that the Pelicans, if they keep what they have going together and can work something out with DeMarcus Cousins, they could be around for some time to come. They could be the team to take down the Golden State Warriors. Now, I don't think they do that without DeMarcus Cousins in this next series, but it will be a nice one. Now, the Jazz are up 3-1 on OKC. Ricky Rubio has clearly outplayed Russell Westbrook, and he's salty about it. He even said, next game, I'm going to shut that down. And he didn't shut it down the next game in Game 4. So, Game 5, we'll see what happens. I think that the Oklahoma City Thunder will find a way to win Game 5 somehow, some way. Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double this year, could win MVP, probably won't. James Harden will probably get that award. However, I definitely think that they'll win Game 5. The sad thing about this entire situation in Oklahoma City is that the Big Three has not worked out. Melo, he doesn't look like Melo anymore. He's not that 03 smiley, rally guy face that he used to be when he hit a jumper with the headband. Melo is just not that guy anymore. Hoodie Melo, it looked great on Instagram, looked great on Facebook, but it has not translated to the court this season. Paul George, he's had a couple good games in the playoffs, but I think most of those performances were to rise his stock, and I don't think he'll be there either. But they've got to break this up. It just has not worked out. We thought it would work out when they combined for 80 points in the first game. However, we see that Melo is just ineffective. He looks old out there. Those knees look like they're shot. So it's a sad thing to say, but Russell Westbrook, can he be a team killer? I know he produces a lot, but can his own will work against him? That's what it seems to be looking like in this year's playoffs. Now, the Rockets' 50-point quarter gave them a 3-1 lead over the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think we'll see another gentleman's sweep in this series because James Harden and them definitely need to get the win done so they can get a little bit of rest. So I definitely think that we will see the T-Wolves exit tonight and James Harden further solidify the fact that he should be the MVP, leading MVP candidate. And I think he'll probably win the award. He's a good player. He's had a good season, but he's got to continue to show up in the playoffs. Don't be a ghost. We know you dropped 44 the first game. We know you dropped 22 in the quarter the other day, in the third quarter. So I definitely think that you have to continue playing that way so we don't remember that Game 6 last year, because that was not a good look. Now, in the East, trust the process. Trust the process. Meek Mill was at the game last night for the Sixers, and he was the one who rung the Liberty Bell for them to let everybody know, Meek Mill, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home. I thought he was dead after Drake got done with him on that back-to-back, but he wasn't. However, Philly beat Miami 4-1 after only winning 10 games nearly 2 years ago. Now, we used to make jokes 2 years ago. You could give out free ice cream, free pizza, free bikes, free cars, and people still wouldn't fill up a Sixers game. However, those games are full these days. And they trusted the process, and they're reaping the benefits. Brett Brown is finally reaping the benefits of going through all those miserable seasons. Joel Embiid, could he be Shaq 2.0? Shaq was a great dominant force in the middle. Embiid's got a rare combination of size, power, athleticism, and a jumper that Shaq never had. So Joel Embiid, can you stay healthy? Can you stay healthy and continue to produce this way? Because if he does, I think we could see somebody who could surpass Wilt Chamberlain, who could surpass Bill Russell, surpass Shaq as the most dominant big force in the game ever. And that's just a personal opinion. Philly could be title town. The Eagles won the championship, the Super Bowl. Villanova won the men's NCAA tournament championship. Makes you wonder about Philadelphia. There's something in the water this year. Is there something in the water? Dwayne Wade last night was asked whether or not he'd retire, and he said, I'm not going to send out any breaking news in Philly. However, you look at Dwayne Wade, he's played 15 seasons. I remember in 8th grade when he played for Marquette, took him on that wonderful run where he actually competed against, he was at the Final Four with Carmelo Anthony in that 03 semifinal round. So I just wonder, Dwayne Wade, the Flash, does he have enough in the knees to play next year? Does he accept his role coming off of the bench? Is that okay with him? Because if it is, I think that he could definitely play another year or even 2, play 17, 20. I mean, Dwayne Wade, yeah, he's got miles on those legs, but if they can conserve him, I think they could definitely use him in Miami. And if he retires, he will be remembered as one of the greats. He's one of 6 players who leads his team in all-time points, steals, assists, wins, you name it. So definitely shout out to Dwayne Wade, and great career if he does retire. Pacers versus Cavs is tied 2-2. LeBron keeping the lights on in Cleveland, burning the midnight oil. They had to hustle to tie the series up 2-2. All the games have been close, decided by 3, 4, 5 points or less. Lance Romance is a dog. Clearly, he's gotten under LeBron's skin. So is Oladipo. Victor Oladipo showed that he can play on the big stage. He is shining now that he's not behind Russell Westbrook's shadow. So I really think that this series will continue to go back and forth. I don't think that Cleveland necessarily will win this series. I still think that the Indiana Pacers, I think they can win this series. I think they will win this series. And we'll be saying early, where will LeBron go? People are saying Philly. People are saying LA. We don't know where the man's going to go. He may stay right in Cleveland and yell at Kobe Altman and say, we need somebody else. We need some more people. He may yell at Dan Gilbert and say, put me some more pieces together. I'll stay here. Who knows? Who knows? But LeBron, you're going to have to make a decision soon. In the meantime, don't get beat up by Lance Stevenson in this series. I know he's been physical. You've been trying to be physical back, but that's Lance's game. He's a New York boy. New York boy. Stay away from him. Now, Drake has stalled the Toronto Raptors series by talking that trash on the sideline, telling John Wall that we're going to get the broom for y'all. We got the broom for y'all. Well, Drizzy Drake, you got your Raptors in a dogfight. Bill and Wall combined for 58 points in Game 4. The series is tied 2-2 now. Who's really going to win this now? And I know the Toronto Raptors are phenomenal at home. I get that. However, John Wall and Bradley Beal have shown that, hey, we are still the house of guards, as Jalen Rose would say, and they are showing that they can D-up DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. So I definitely think that this series will go to the Toronto Raptors. However, Drake, you got your boys in trouble. They should talk to you about that. When they see you out in the club, Drake, come on, man, calm down with all that chit chat on the sideline. That's just my personal opinion. Now, the NFL draft is tomorrow, so choose wisely, as the traveling gnome would say. QBs available: Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, Baker Mayfield. The curious case of Lamar Jackson. Now, the first 5 picks, you got Cleveland, New York Giants, and New York Jets. And then Cleveland again at 4, and then the Miami Dolphins. If I'm these teams, if I'm Cleveland, the first pick, I take Saquon Barkley because he's a generational talent at running back. People are saying he's the best running back to come out since Adrian Peterson. Think about all the productive years that Adrian Peterson had in the NFL. Think about the productive year that Adrian Peterson had after he tore his ACL. And I see the same work ethic in Saquon Barkley. Even if he were to have an injury like that, that'd be unfortunate. I don't want that to happen. But if he did, I definitely think he could come back from that. He's that type of player, that type of physical specimen. So if I'm Cleveland, I got to take him 1 at running back because it hasn't worked out with Duke Johnson and all those other guys. The New York Giants, if I'm them, I'm taking Josh Allen because we've seen Davis Webb as and then Eli Manning, you guys said that you're going to go ahead and hang out and hold him for a few more years. He's got something left in the tank. So why not try and get a running back later? That's something that's an option, but you definitely need a succession plan for Eli Manning. I don't think Davis Webb is the answer. The New York Giants, they could take Baker Mayfield. I think they should take Baker Mayfield just because he'll bring some flair to the New York market. They need that in New York right now at quarterback. The Cleveland Browns at 4, they've got to take Sam Darnold. They have to take Sam Darnold. And the reason I say they've got to take Sam Darnold at 4 is because Saquon Barkley won't be there at 4. But Sam Darnold, you can get a good quarterback at it. At anyone in this group, you'll find a good quarterback. But Sam Darnold, I think, is the best quarterback in this draft. He's shown it. He showed it in one game to me. People can talk about, his hands might be small. He had an up and down year last year. I remember the Rose Bowl against Penn State. When you talk about clutch performers, you need a guy who's going to perform under the lights, under pressure, who's going to get the job done. And I think Sam Darnold's always shown that he can do that. Now, the Miami Dolphins, if I'm them, Ryan Tannehill's not the guy, has never been the guy, stays hurt. I'm going to take the Florida kid and bring him back home, Lamar Jackson, put him at quarterback. Let him be dynamic. Let him bring Showtime to Miami, to the Hard Rock Stadium. Let him come home and put on display all the things that he did in college. He'll be working with Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker didn't necessarily play with him, but he did go to Louisville, so they'll have that connection. I definitely think Lamar Jackson is the pick for the Miami Dolphins just because of his speed, athleticism, and yeah, he can improve as a passer, but Miami, what offensive line you guys got down there really? And what do you have to lose by taking a Lamar Jackson? Then build your offensive line, and maybe he can get something done for this team. I think he can. NFL-wise, Gronk and Tom Brady, they will probably be back. I know Tom Brady will probably be back. Agent Don Yee confirmed that he probably will play in 2018. Gronkowski, he was on the fence about potentially retiring or coming back. He has been adamant about the fact that he wants to play with Tom Brady, which is understandable. He talked with Bill Belichick yesterday and said, you know what, Coach? I think I'm coming back. Gronk is coming back. Now, he'll be down here for the Kentucky Derby, of course, because he's got a horse running in it. But Gronkowski, Rob Gronkowski, is a tight end that we know is a game wrecker. He's had a lot of injuries, but he's somebody that loves football. And when you got a guy that still loves football, they're going to produce. So watch out for Gronk in 2018. Now, there's a golf tournament in Zurich right now. In New Orleans, the Zurich Classic, which will include walk-up music, like it's baseball. I saw some of the songs earlier today. They had Slippery by Migos. They had some Kendrick Lamar, DNA. They had a number of different songs. So I definitely think that's going to be something new and fresh for golf. It's something they should maybe look at. Not every tournament like the big majors, like the Masters or U.S. Open, but some of these other tournaments should potentially start making some similar changes and additions to what they do and how they play the sport. I think it'll be great. Make people want to go watch golf. Make people want to watch the TV just to see the walk-up music. I mean, the things people will do just to watch something on TV, depending on what their interests are. So think about it, golf. Now, in the NHL, there's a second-round hockey matchup that I'm anxious to hear about and see between Alexander Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby. For a long time, they've both been acknowledged as one and two in the game. Who's been one? Sidney Crosby. Ovechkin, a tight number 2, 1B. Now, Alexander Ovechkin needs to win this series because he hasn't fared well in the playoffs against Sidney Crosby over the past couple years. He needs to win this series to solidify himself as the or one of the top players of his generation. He will be known as one of the top players, but you don't want to be considered a second best to Sidney Crosby. You want to be considered his equal, not second best. So Alexander Ovechkin for the Washington Capitals. You guys took care of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Sidney Crosby, they took care of the Philadelphia Flyers. Now it's time to go head to head. Alexander Ovechkin, lead your team. Lead your team, bro. Lead your team. Austin Matthews, he's the young gun out there in Toronto, but Alexander Ovechkin, lead your team. This is it. Sidney Crosby, it's up to you again. Next week, we will definitely wrap some more. Got a lot to talk about as usual. We'll talk about the do's and don'ts of the NFL draft and what people did and didn't do in the NFL draft. For me, I'm not going to take a guy that isn't for sure going to be a superstar on my team. I'm not going to listen to all the analytics. What'd you do in college? That's what I want. So the Bears, they took Trubisky last year. We'll see what happens with him. And I told everybody Deshaun Watson was the guy to pick. And I was right. Zono Sports here. Thank you for watching the Zono Sports show where you know Zonos.